welcome to our webinar about talking about building better clouds. So my name is Roland Frehner. I'm part of the worldwide go-to-market team and solution lead for the service provider market. And I'm together here with Patrick Schmidt, the Managing Director, EMEA, from Pensando Systems. And today we want to talk about how Pensando's distributed cloud services platform is helping you to become a more successful service provider. Let's dive right into what service providers need to win nowadays in this highly competitive market. On one hand, to stay in the game, it's really very important that you as a service provider really focus on delivering business outcomes. It's no longer good enough to just deliver infrastructure as a service, stay at let's say a commodity layer, basic plumbing. It's not good enough. In order to stay relevant, you have to be at an application layer. You need to deliver self-service, high SLAs, differentiate from the big boys, and go over there. Be agile in having an attractive service portfolio. So leverage, let's say, off-the-shelf, ready-to-use solutions like the ones from HPE to be agile and adapt to market needs. And of course, one of the key elements as a service provider and also talking to service providers is you need to have the best staff in order to be successful, because only the best talent will make the difference in front of a customer. And you need to use these talents really carefully. So use them and free them up for innovation projects, etc. Of course, adapt and monitor latest technologies. That's also why we're here and giving you an update about it. And elements like reviewing your service delivery model is a constant recommendation and also success path to stay in the game as a service provider. In order to take the lead as a service provider and really stay relevant and also grab more market share, we believe, talking to a lot of customers, service provider customers, MSPs, outsourcers, you need to have a competitive multi-tenant cloud platform that is agile, or it's delivering the agile platform to enable fast new SaaS offerings. So this year, we enabled about 5 service providers with such an offering in order to enable them to be more competitive in the market. As an example, a large service provider in the Middle East has become now the #1 service provider because he invested in a multi-tenant shared platform that is highly competitive, not just in terms of price, but also in terms of functionality. Going that route, and he outplaced even US giants as he is able to deliver on a local level. Another element is, of course, with the cloudification of the whole market, with the move to digital offerings, digital transformation, also with the push of the pandemic, I think it's very important that you have an offering in place that is competitive, that is helping your customers also to get out of the hyperscaler trap, I would say. It is important that elements like data sovereignty are increasingly important to customers. We have trends in Europe, but also in other regions that take this up. So looking forward, what have we prepared in this webinar? So today, Patrick and myself, we'd like to give you the insights about the Pensando's distributed services platform. What is it? Why is it important for a service provider, for an MSP, a cloud provider, but also an outsourcer to look into that? What's the business value of using such a platform? What are the elements that are freed up? Where does it help in order to reduce complexity? And of course, how can you start with us, with HPE and Pensando, to get closer to this technology and explore new ways of use cases that could be enabled with that platform. So with that, let me hand over to Patrick. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Roland. It's great to be here. We appreciate the partnership with HP Enterprise a lot. So let me start by introducing Pensando. And actually, we've been a 5-year-old startup company that has been founded by some of the former Cisco engineering executives. It is that team that brought ACI, UCS, and the Nexus portfolio to the market. Now we're actually a completely independent company and appreciate that HPE joined us as our largest investor. And Pensando and HPE are really all about a go-to-market and sales partnership, where on the one side, all of our products are part of HPE's price list, and HPE provides first and second level support 24/7. But also there's a big development partnership behind, where the Pensando technology will be integrated in more and more solutions of HP Enterprise moving forward. So what is the problem that we as Pensando are solving? How can you build better clouds and simplify your operation, given the fact that applications are distributed, that 80 to 90% of your traffic is or will be east-west, given the fact that you need to support multi-tenancy at scale, and every service provider is currently facing bottlenecks in their networks, whether it's in the top of rack with TCAM limitations or access control list limitations, or it is the fact that the SDN stack runs on the host and consumes 35% of CPU cycles. That is the problem we're solving. With Pensando and HPE, you are able to build clouds in a much better, much more efficient way than you ever could before. You go to the next slide, please, Roland. So what is it that we've done? We looked at the architectural approach of the hyperscalers, the AWSs, the Azures, the Googles of the world, took that architectural approach and built a platform approach to network security and storage services. Actually, our platform consists of 3 elements. And let me go from the bottom to the top of this chart. So we have built a dedicated hardware that sits in every server. And on that hardware, which comes in the form factor of a PCI card, we have created our own custom developed ASIC that runs that card. Some of the best ASIC developers on this planet work for Pensando. And actually, that's the magic and the secret sauce of our whole solution. So the ASIC sits on the card, being the first element. The card sits in every server. In the ASIC, we have a set of services running, which we developed in software based on the programming language P4. So all those things that you see on the right side, is a software service that runs on every card in every host, whether it is that the card functions as a router, the card functions as a security device, as a tap or network monitoring instance. The card can do microsegmentation or even provide storage services in the future. So the card, the services, and then how can you scale without a central management or orchestration layer? So really, the third leg of the platform is what we call the policy and service manager. It's an element manager that updates the firmware of the card, auto detects once a server is rolled out with the Pensando distributed services card. But it also helps you to distribute policies onto hundreds and thousands of cards being in production. And also, the policy and services manager connects into your existing orchestration layer for seamless integration, whether it is in your Ansible tools, whether it is in your OpenStack environment, whether it is in your Kubernetes environment, or even in your VMware environment, whatever you might have, you can integrate the architecture into your brownfield. So really what it is the Pensando platform approach consists of first the card that owns our own developed ASIC, the software services, and then the third element is the manager and the management layer that sits on top. We go to the next slide, please, Roland. So before I hand it back to Roland to tell us why is this approach, this distributed services approach for network storage and security services important, I want to give you two more details with regards to the hardware that actually we plug into every server and that acts as a control point for you as a service provider. As I said, the card comes in a PCIe form factor, and we offer it today in two different versions. First, in a 10/25 gig version, and second, in a 40, 50, 100 gig version. The processor, the chip that sits on the card is the same. The card offers a very efficient way in terms of power consumption, only 25 watts for the 25 gig card and only about 30 watts for the 100 gig card. And it provides world-class throughput, but also fantastic latency and jitter to run your distributed applications at scale. But more to that point in a second. Roland, if you go to the next one, please. All right, so handing it over back to you, please, Roland, to give us some market insights.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Patrick. Let's have a look a little bit at the evolution of, let's say, these technologies, and also give you a view on you are not investing in bleeding technology here. This is a technology and a trend that is driven by the market and the market requirements outlined by Patrick. So when you look at the, let's say, the storage and networking technology in the past, you see more or less two streams, right? On the upper hand, you see on the, let's say, IP/Ethernet-based technologies, we have over decades a standard NIC card that delivers just networking with different speeds, evolving over time, up to 25, 100 gig speeds today. It evolved into an advanced NIC, delivering some offload capabilities like checksum or, let's say, handshake, TCP handshake handling, etc. So to offload a little bit over the central CPU. On the storage side, we saw, let's say, from a server I/O or storage I/O perspective, all started with the standard storage controller that allowed you to control, let's say, the disks in your system. So JBOD handling that evolved over time to things like in HPE, a smart array controller that also offloaded capabilities like caching, but also did hardware RAID directly on the card in order to deliver more performance to the system. But looking ahead and looking on where the market is going nowadays, you see multiple things. On the networking side, we are now entering, with the example of Pensando, the area of Smart NIC. And Smart NIC, as outlined by Patrick before, is really delivering the next layer of simplifying security management, CPU offloading, but also network offloading by delivering firewalling, load balancing, encryption, etc., directly on the Smart NIC card. On the storage side, you have trends like NVMe, of course, that is highly established in the market now, but it goes further. It now goes into an NVMe over Fabric, meaning it's an Ethernet-based protocol as well that is enabling new ways of addressing distributed data through that protocol. It is also introducing, or we're currently introducing elements like PCI root, meaning the disks out there over the network will see the network card as a PCI root instead of seeing the CPU of the system, enabling new capabilities, but also new functions that also could be offloaded to these network cards, like hashing, dedupe functions that happen then on that card as well. And the trend goes further into a smart I/O area, or let's say analysts call it function accelerator cards, where it is expected that these two streams will come together. And as outlined by Patrick before, you will see that also the Pensando card is addressing storage use cases in the near future. So it is happening. And it is expected by the analysts that in about 2-3 years, a third of all network cards will be in that new format. Also, it would be function accelerator cards. And a good example of, let's say, proof point of that trend is, of course, I would say one of the biggest software companies in the world, VMware, just recently announced at VMworld in September, their new project Monterey. And what is Monterey all about? It is their evolution of their Project Pacific, which ended in Tanzu, right? Which is, let's say, the Kubernetes solution on top of their VMware platform. They had to evolve due to these new application requirements that have a bigger impact on east-west traffic, on the way you manage security, which pushed VMware to go down that route, exploring smart NIC technology in order to offload virtualization, networking, storage functions of the CPU in order to deliver optimized performance, virtual, but also bare metal. And this is very exciting. So all of a sudden, you will see that VMware runs on a smart NIC card. And that's quite the game changer. It enables, of course, a distributed zero trust security model, which is another additional very important element. As you know, as a service provider, security is top of mind and key to deliver a consistent SLA. And this approach will help them, or will help you to, let's say, deliver on a consistent operational model. And what's important here is as well that VMware is not going to go on that journey just themselves. They are partnering with the best in class. So here, for example, HPE and Pensando are part of Project Monterey on that journey. And please have a look on the blog post on the lower left corner to see more details. So as a next step, let's have a look at the use cases that are available today with Pensando. Back to you, Patrick.
That's exciting, Roland. Thank you. So one of the most successful use cases we are building with some of the largest cloud providers in the world right now is multi-tenant bare metal as a service. So bare metal, as we see it, is, I guess, the most prominent IaaS service for service providers these days. And it's simply because customers can do whatever they want on the host, right? Whether they deploy a single OS, whether they deploy a virtualization layer, or they run containers. The provider should not take care. The challenge is that in a multi-tenant environment, how do you get the network segmentation done at scale without the limitations that you see in the top of rack, the bottlenecks that you have? And how do you manage security and avoid that customers can move from the host into other network segments and onto other actually tenants? So how do you solve the scalability and operational issues, and how do you manage the security? So today you either implemented the multi-tenancy on the Tor, or you dedicated a couple of servers, right, and implemented SDN functions there, which consume CPU cycles and costs a lot. Also increase the complexity and of the operational burden. So what we can do is the Pensando distributed services card and the platform actually realizes a dedicated control point for you as a service provider in every server. And as it's a PCIe card, it cannot be accessed from the host. There's a separation between the host and the card. So what you can do is you can push down policy and network configuration to the card. The card can be exposed in the server as 16 and even more virtual NIC cards. So you clearly support multi-tenancy. You extend the network to the card, you terminate an EVPN VXLAN on the card, you leverage BGP in the underlay, right? Take the functions from the Tor, put it into every node and every server, and manage all of that centrally. The customer cannot access any other network or any other tenant. The service provider controls fully network and security services, while the customer at the same point in time can do whatever they want on the host. That is the reason why many of the largest cloud providers these days use Pensando to build and create and launch the latest and greatest infrastructure as a service services, because it reduces the complexity in operations and it saves a significant number of OPEX and cost. We mentioned the fact, if you go to the next slide, please, Roland. So initially I said Pensando looked into the architecture of the hyperscalers. How do we compare from a performance standpoint with an AWS Nitro, for example? So first of all, we looked into the offload capability and efficiency gains that you could get by taking off the SDN stack from the host and putting it onto the Pensando card. And actually, we believe that 35% is what you could free up on your data center footprint, is what you could free up in terms of CPU cycles to drive by far better business cases and efficiency as part of your cloud deployments. But it's not only that. We tested against AWS Nitro and Outpost. So you can see that the Pensando technology even leapfrogs what some of the largest cloud providers on this planet offer in terms of latency, in terms of throughput, and in terms of power consumption. That is why we are able, and you are able, to build better clouds together with HPE and Pensando. But there are much more use cases that you can go after, as this device that sits in the node is really a multi-purpose device that can run all of those services that we talked about at the same point in time at bio rate simultaneously. Roland, if you go to the next slide. Another use case is actually coming from the fact that the card, the distributed services card, can act as a network monitoring device or as a tap. So we do support bidirectional ES-PAN and port mirroring. We do support NetFlow full packet captures without any sampling. We collect IPFix flow data and can report that back to a central data collector, for example, being a Splunk or an Elastic Flow instance. So the problem that we solve with that is that many service providers, while first of all they invest hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars in tap networks, which you could get rid of. And we believe there's at least a 30% savings opportunity. But even more, we bring full visibility into everything that goes on in the network, not only until the host, but also to the inter-host traffic. So you see everything that goes on a single host. That helps you to bring down your mean time to repair. And we got one operator in Eastern Europe that actually says that the HPE Pensando distributed services platform helps them to improve their mean time to repair by 50%. So that's one of the effects how scalability helps you to solve some of your business problems. You save a significant number of costs by using the Pensando card to replace your tap networks, but at the same point in time, you can actually improve your service levels and improve mean time to repair by 50%. All right, those have been two examples of use cases on how to leverage this architecture immediately and best towards building better clouds and your best benefits. We go to the next slide, please, Roland. So let me sum up the business outcomes, because indeed, immediately you get a business outcome if you use the distributed services platform. You spend about 30% less CAPEX, depending on the use case. by taking off features either leveraging the offload capabilities or replacing virtual tap and optical tap instances in your network. You can lower the data center footprint to reduce your cost. You simplify operations because we give you a scale model that scales with the rollout of every server, where the Pensando DSC acts as a control point in every node. We support automation and automated policy distribution up to every tenant. And with the visibility aspects, we support compliance. We actually give you less risk, or we support risk mitigation, and can help you to improve your service levels and mean time to repair by up to 50%. All right, so how can you start to leverage that? How can you start to engage with that? How can that fit into your brownfield environment? So there's a good news. You do not need to go with a full Monty of services. There is no customer, no company in this world that can leverage all of the features that this technology brings immediately. And really what you can do and how we start is that you just use the card and replace your existing network interface card with a Pensando distributed services card in first instance. And you can do that because in its most basic term, the cards act as a standard NIC card. So we have many customers that say, I do need about 2 to 3 quarters to build my workflows and adjust my workflows, do the integration in my orchestration layer so that I can fully leverage either visibility or multi-tenant cloud or the security aspects of it. Can I start to leverage my server refreshment cycle, my life cycle process, to use the Pensando card as a basic NIC, and then once I got it deployed 2, 3 quarters later, switch on the features and the use cases as it's appropriate for my company? And the clear answer is yes, you can. That's the brownfield scenario. You can certify the card as a NIC and in parallel work on the use case that brings the best value to you, whether it's multi-tenant cloud, whether it is visibility, whether it is CPU offloading. All right, to sum it up, HPE and Pensando help you to build better clouds and simplify your IT operations and solve the challenges that come along with distributed applications, with east-west traffic, with multi-tenancy requirements at scale, while at the same point in time, we reduce all of the bottlenecks that you have in your current network, whether they are on the top of rack or whether they come with an SDN stack that runs on your host. With this solution, you can build clouds like you never could build them before in a more efficient and more scalable manner. With that, Roland, I hand it over to you.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you for all the overview. So I would say you have a lot of learned about this Pensando's distributed services platform. It's a very exciting technology. There's a long list of customers that are already adopting this joint solution out of HPE and Pensando. And we are really keen to get in touch with you and dive into the details. So very easy. Just email us, call us, Patrick or myself, and let's have a briefing session, dive into the use cases that matter to you, understand the value or identify the value of, let's say, Pensando HPE solution for your environment. And of course, we can demo it. We can also discuss about POC and discuss the journey just outlined by Patrick. It would be fantastic to get in touch with you and explore that further. Patrick, any final words from your side?
I can only say it has been a great journey so far together, Roland. Again, it's so exciting to be part of this market transition, right? And we look forward to meet so many customers and really create value. That's what we're here for.
All right. Thank you very much for listening in, and see you soon. Thank you.